Welcome to the Second Renaissance podcast. I am James DeFleur.
Greetings, I'm Novaire. Welcome to the Second Renaissance.
Yeah, in today's topic, we're going to talk about optimism and specifically why it's rational to be optimistic.
Yeah, I think it's kind of illogical not to be optimistic, especially the times that we're living in right now.
Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, I feel like there's like a lot of pessimism in the world right now, in the news and social media, and people are like getting bathed in pessimism. But this actually scientifically leads to worse outcomes. And like being optimistic actually leads to better outcomes.
True. I was just thinking, like, if I had a dating profile, not that I do have a dating profile, but it would read something like allergic to negativity. Because I think that's probably the number one turnoff for me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, negativity is like contagious.
Yeah, exactly. It'll kind of pull you down.
But optimism is also contagious, right?
See how you flip that?
Yeah, exactly. No, when you're like around like a good times wizard.
Yeah, and I feel like that energy will just like pull you up.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's some of the stuff I want to talk about today. There's like optimism's effects on you individually.
Yeah.
And like actually your physiology, your biochemistry, and your actions and your outcomes. And then also how your beliefs, like whether they're optimistic or pessimistic, of other people in the world actually reflect onto people, and it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
True. Well, I think we're basically serial optimists, bro. Like we're launching a podcast in the middle of like World War III right now, and we're kind of doing whatever we can to kind of spread good times and good information and good messaging.
No, exactly. That is like the second Renaissance, like a time of great change, but also a time of great opportunity.
And it's kind of like the war of ideas right now. It's like, what was that parable with the two wolves inside of you?
The War of Two Wolves. That was like the Native American one.
Yeah, where it's like you have two wolves, or it's a little boy asking the chief, right?
The grandfather is explaining to the little boy.
Yeah, exactly.
And he says, if I remember this correctly, says you have two wolves fighting inside you. One is like optimism, positivity, love, compassion, good times, right? And then the other one is like greed, anger, resentment,
rigidity.
Exactly. And then the little boy asks the chief, he thinks about it and he says, but grandpa, which wolf will win? And
whichever one you feed.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so boss.
The grandpa's like, whichever one you feed.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, that's really on point actually, because some of the stuff I want to talk about is like it's like a self-feedback loop, actually, that being optimistic rewires your brain to be more optimistic, which then leads to like better actions, like more actions that have more influence on your outcomes, which then of course lead to better outcomes.
Yeah, and we're not preaching like delusional Panglossian optimism. We're preaching like pretty reasonable optimism because we're pretty reasonable guys.
No, yeah, that's the other thing definitely, is like the balance between being intellectually rigorous, like thinking clearly, not just like, oh yeah, everything's going to be fine, everything's going to work out. No, you do want to like consider all the possibilities, all the outcomes.
But you don't want to be err on the side of things working out.
Exactly. So it's just having like a slight bias towards like the optimistic belief, because that's pragmatically beneficial. So like as rational or reasonable thinkers, you want to be unbiased. Like people want to be like, no, I'm as unbiased as possible. But I think what we would argue is that optimism is the only rational bias.
Yeah, because I think every other bias leads you to unfavorable outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're almost shooting yourself in the foot if you're like erring on the side of the pessimistic belief.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's your superpower. Is ever since I met you, I would bring these beliefs over nature over nurture from like running or savant memory champions or stuff like that. And I think your superpower was always that ability to err on the side of anyone can do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like we have uncertainty there, right? Which is like, where exactly is the boundary? If you want to take nature versus nurture, do we know with 100% confidence, like this is 100% genetic only, and this is 100% like your lifetime and you can reshape your neurons and whatnot? We don't know where that border is. So yeah, I think it's actually rational to just err on the side of, well, I believe the individual can cultivate any capacity in themselves, right? If you practice something, you can get better at that thing.
Yeah.
as opposed to like believing you're cursed from birth, right? To bring in like the curse idea.
yeah.
It's just an anti-rational belief to be like, oh, because I was born this way or because I had this experience in the past, now I'm permanently going to be like this way and there's nothing I can do about it.
Right. It's like a life sentence of not being able to improve or not being able to like seek more favorable outcomes.
Exactly. And what if you're wrong?
True.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so should I like jump into like the science backing
Yeah, I
behind
think
this stuff?
that's like base it, like explain why we feel so passionately about that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Take a moment,
take
sir.
a moment.
Because we have like 5 beverages here.
Yeah, exactly. We have our pick, whatever we might feel in the mood for.
I think this is the biggest stack of beverages I've ever had.
Yeah, we like totally prepped everything we might need substance wise for like, I need a little bit more awakeness, a little bit more like relaxation.
Yeah. It's definitely something we're passionate about.
Definitely tweaking like the
headspaces.
headspaces,
Yeah.
definitely. Why optimism is rational. It starts with the placebo effect, right? Because the placebo effect is
Maybe explain that, bro, just for people who don't know or haven't heard it recently.
yeah, sure. So in pretty much every scientific study, they realize that someone thinking that they're getting a treatment for something actually resulted in an improvement in whatever the condition was. So they would give them like a sugar pill, right? So, oh, we have to see if this medicine works or not. So let's split the group 50-50, give one the medicine, give the other one a sugar pill, which does like absolutely nothing.
Sugar would give you like a rush though too, or
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah, no, I mean, there is something in sugar. I wonder if like later studies, if they found something like that, they would have switched to something that really does absolutely nothing because that's the
Okay.
purpose they're testing it against. And yeah, so what they found is in like 50% of the studies or something like that, the people who just took the sugar pill or took the placebo got the same benefit as the people who took the medicine,
That's crazy, yeah.
which is crazy. Like absolutely nothing changed.
Well, it shows you how strong your mind is once it's sold on a narrative.
Yeah, that's the power of belief. If
Yeah.
people who believed they were being treated for something, and this had a really wide range. So it was like treating anxiety and depression, just thinking they were getting some medicine when they got absolutely nothing. So they had the belief, oh, I'm going to get better. The symptoms improved. But it's not just stuff like that. It was also like the hormones in the body. So one of the crazier studies was this milkshake study. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard.
Oh, Pear has a good remix. Our friend has a good remix of that song.
That's a sick one. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
have to link that in the comments or something like that.
Yeah, that one's good. I don't think I've heard the milkshake one.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the milkshake one is crazy. So they had a like a protein shake or like a milkshake. Or no, it wasn't milkshake. It was like an indulgent thing.
Okay.
And it had like 400 calories. And they told one group this is like a 700 calorie indulgent milkshake. And they told the other one this is like a diet milkshake that has like 200 calories. What they found is there's a hormone in the body that makes you hungry or not hungry.
Ah, okay.
And what the people who thought they were having an indulgent milkshake produced 3 times as much of that hormone, so they were more satiated for a longer amount of time.
Oh, wow.
It was an identical milkshake.
We should tell that to the like Ozempic crew.
Oh, okay.
Like, actually, you don't need that. We have something that's like a lot easier,
yeah, just like believe
more
that,
natural. Yeah.
well, yeah, so that's crazy. So just believing you were having something indulgent made them like satiated for longer. Believing they were having some diet food or something, it didn't satiate their hunger. But this is a hormonal change in the body. Like, why would the cells of your body know what you're thinking about and have different responses? So that's kind of the power of the placebo effect.
Definitely.
And I feel like this is kind of underappreciated because they used it in scientific studies to test medicines and real treatments as like a baseline. But I feel like as a byproduct, there's now hundreds of thousands of studies that have shown what the placebo does for people in all these different ranges and contexts.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to disagree with when you see the science behind the placebo.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, okay, it had effects on pain. So it reduces pain, depression and anxiety, immune function. So people's immune system actually got stronger and more efficient from thinking they took something that's going to make it more efficient. Stuff like IBS, like irritable bowel syndrome. So like the stomach stopped having problems because they thought, oh, I'm getting something that's going to make it better.
I'm gonna think that next time I eat like a spicy krapao or something.
Yeah.
The Thai food. The Thai food definitely gets you with this little red peppers in it.
It can get you for sure.
Yeah.
Here's one for you, insomnia.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one of mine.
That's why I love those like Thai goodnight gummies.
Oh, those are good, yeah.
They just have like chamomile and like grapeseed extract or something.
There's no melatonin or
There's
anything?
no melatonin or anything powerful, but I feel like I have the placebo response now because I taste that like great gummy. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna sleep good tonight.
Oh, nice, bro. Yeah, I should stock up on those.
Yeah, those are good ones. Oh yeah, here was a really big one. So for surgery, there's what they call sham surgery. So that they do a fake surgery on someone. I think they like maybe cut them open, but they don't actually change anything. And it was 75% of trials, people saw an improvement from thinking they got a surgery when they didn't actually do any surgery.
What kind of surgery? Like a transplant or something?
I don't know. No, it wouldn't be like a transplant. I would guess like a knee surgery or something, like if you tear your ACL or...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know the specific details, but that's just like shocking, right? That the body physically mended itself better, or people thought their issue got better when they thought they had surgery.
Actually, my mom's thinking of doing knee surgery, but we've been telling her to kind of put it off as long as possible. So maybe a sham surgery is like the 1.0 version of that.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? So like placebo is usually in scientific studies of them giving them a medicine or a treatment or something, or they thought they were getting a treatment from someone else. But I feel like you can also placebo yourself, right? You can kind of just like convince yourself that like, oh, I'm going to get better, or like, you know.
What's that quote of like, if you delude other people, but you're the easiest person to delude yourself? There's like a quote.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, it's not delude, deceive, I think.
Do you want to pull it up, or
yeah,
do you want to?
Yeah, I could ask Novaire.
I'll take a rip while you...
Yeah. Hey, Novaire, we're on the pod. What's the quote that says, like, you can deceive other people, but be careful because you're the easiest person to deceive yourself? See what he can do here.
You can put him up to the mic when you play it.
Yeah, another one while this is pulling up, bro. Like, what you believe isn't just a mindset. Like, it's something, like, your body's listening, like you're saying, you know? So there's literally, like, chemical changes going on as you're thinking different thoughts. Like, words are so powerful. And yeah, it's kind of like the Henry Ford, like if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right, because your body's going to like self-correct to kind of make it a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I had that quote too. I wanted to bring that one up on this pod.
Oh, okay.
I love that one.
Yeah, that's really... I'll just play Novaire here quickly.
Sure.
Feynman, the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool.
Okay, that wasn't exactly what I was thinking, but I've heard that one too.
Yeah, definitely.
Feynman has a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, smart guy. Smart wizard for show.
Yeah. Is he still alive?
No. He
Okay.
passed away. But yeah, so like placeboing yourself, it's kind of like what we talked about on the first one about like casting spells. You're kind of casting spells on yourself because there's also something called the nocebo effect, which is the opposite.
That's like a curse.
Yeah, it's like a curse, right? The nocebo was when people thought they were like getting something that would harm them. It actually caused physical harm to them. So I can't remember the specific examples of this, but like people experience pain. They have this in science. It's like psychosomatic pain. Like someone who thinks they're sick or something is wrong with them, their body actually physically manifests symptoms of that thing.
Yeah, I believe that for sure. That's why it's even like Ferris Bueller's Day Out. Like, I think a lot of people who skip school when they're sick, almost like eventually they do get like a real sickness or something after that, you know?
Did you have that as a kid?
Well,
I had that. That happened to me.
I think it...
I remember some day where I was like, oh, I really don't want to go to school. Oh, I'm sick. And I like had to act I was sick, but I convinced myself that I was sick and I like actually got sick.
Well, I think your body kind of closes down or shuts down and then it's trying to recover because you're told that it needs to recover. Like you're trying to sleep longer or you're trying to like lie around all day.
Yeah, exactly. But this is shown in placebo studies, like your immune system is modulated by your belief. So if you think you're going to get better fast, you actually are more likely to get better fast. And so that's the thing. This isn't like mind over matter, like your mind controls the universe thing. It's just you're tipping the probability slightly in the favor of the positive outcome.
Definitely.
Okay, yeah, and then there's kind of like these optimistic belief self-feedback loops. So there are these studies on what they call stress mindset. Have you heard these ones?
like kind of what we were talking about before. Like if you're feeling in a negative headspace, you put more stress or cortisol. Like,
What's your views about stress? So people who had the belief, oh, stress like makes me stronger, or stress is not bad for you, right? Some people
okay.
believe stress is bad for you and you should avoid all stress.
No, you need some stress for sure.
When people who had the belief stress is like can be beneficial because it like makes you stronger and more resilient, where actually over time they become more able to handle more stress.
True. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's just like weight training or something.
Oh yeah, there's that really good Epictetus quote on this where he said, "No matter what happens, it is in my power to use it to my benefit." That's such a powerful mindset, I feel like. But yeah, so there's like the stress mindset studies. There's also the growth mindset studies. And they found that some people have a growth mindset, some people have a fixed mindset. It's related, but fixed mindset is like my capabilities are fixed for my life. Growth mindset is, oh, I can develop my capabilities and capacity. I can continue to learn over time and like get new capabilities. Yeah, and they found people who have the growth mindset are like way more likely to achieve things because it makes sense, right?
Definitely.
That's that Henry Ford quote. Like
Yeah.
if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
If you think, oh, I have the capacity to grow my abilities, you're more likely to take actions that will result in you actually growing your abilities. If you think you can't do it, then you're not even going to try, right?
Yeah. You've given up already.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In hockey parlance, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Oh yeah, was that Wayne Gretzky? Or?
Yeah, Wayne Gretzky.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, my dad would like that one.
Nice. But yeah, so the other thing is that they found that you can learn these mindsets. So even your mindsets aren't fixed. So they gave people like a 1 hour seminar on a growth mindset, and they found they were able to like change their belief about their own mindset and then get the benefits of the growth mindset.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the meditating as well too, right? Like it's another mental model that you can use in situations.
Yeah, exactly. And it's what this is that spell casting again. You're like casting a spell on yourself or casting a spell on someone else by being like, "Oh, I can change my mind and like grow my abilities. I didn't know that. Cool. Oh, the can actually be good for you and help you like grow capacity if you look at it that way. Cool. I'm just going to adopt that. I'm going to try that." And then it's like a muscle, right? So you're like kind of like optimism or optimistic beliefs are almost like a muscle that the more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Yeah, definitely. I think sales people are usually really good at that. Like good salespeople, like they're good at amping themselves up or kind of seeing themselves making the sale before they've done it even.
Oh,
like
absolutely.
the positive visualization. Because you're kind of casting a future spell on yourself of going through the motions and like achieving the sale.
Right, right.
Yeah, it's something we used to do like in running as well too. Like kind of viewing yourself going through the race or visualizing like the best possible outcome.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah. Do you want to talk a bit about your background in running? Like,
Yeah, I guess I ran a little bit back in the day.
with me and Miguel like clown on Nolan that he's like too modest about his running background. He was
Well,
actually quite competitive.
Yeah, I did represent Canada, or I had a few provincial championships back in the day. But I think when I meet people who know about running, then I'll kind of divulge a bit more. But most people don't really know much about running times. Like running was kind of a unique sport where it wasn't like mainstream as much, especially like middle distance races. I feel like people might know like 100 meters or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. But I feel like because you had so much experience, like you put in your 10,000 hours in running and
Definitely.
you learn a lot of things from that, right? Like
I think that mindset carried forward to today.
definitely. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think the muscle memory or even like the mental memory, like what we're talking about now, of knowing how to like focus, how to train, like I don't think you really lose those things.
When I think it's really interesting that like we can come at this from totally different backgrounds, but you learn some of the same like meta principles like about mindset and things like that. Like whether it's in athletics or like business or yeah, like academic competitions, like learning.
No, for sure. Yeah. Competition is good.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you have that mindset to use competition, that's like that stress mindset. Exactly.
Yeah. And I love the quote also that's like, I either win or I learn. So it's like there's no real bad outcomes because the desired outcome is an opportunity to like grow and improve and challenge yourself to be greater or better next time.
Yeah, exactly. Right back to that Epictetus quote.
Exactly.
Like it's just how do I figure out how this is beneficial to me? Like, what can I take out of this situation, even if it's like a shitty situation? It's like, what can I learn from this to help grow my capacity? And if you have that mindset, it just flips everything into like a training exercise.
True. Yeah. My dad used to say, like, we'll just think of it as training. Like if we were complaining about carrying groceries or like doing some yard work or something like that, my dad's like, okay, how do I gamify my two sons who are really competitive, like in the 800 meters again? He's like, oh, we'll think of it as training. And then it became like more of a race, like who could cut the shrubs faster or like who could carry, you know,
Then you guys always have the
yard.
groceries in like under 60 seconds.
Yeah, my dad. He had some good like wagers for us.
Nice.
Okay, so for number 2, or the second topic, bro, I wrote the Pragmatist wager, which
that's one of my favorites.
Yeah, so I'll defer to you on this definition.
Yeah, so the Pragmatist wager is something I formulated because there's Pascal's wager, which like many people are familiar with, but it's not that important for the topic of this. But he was thinking in terms of like probabilities of outcomes and using that as a logical decision matrix. And there's like flaws with Pascal's wager, but the Pragmatist wager is essentially, so pragmatism is like looking at outcomes, like what actually affects your outcomes in real life. And it's looking at a decision matrix where you have, I might be right or I might be wrong about this. And some areas we have genuine uncertainty, especially about the future. We don't know anything that's going to happen in the future with 100% certainty.
And based on the science stuff, it could almost be like the rationalist wager as well, too. Like it's the main topic, right? Like it's rational to be pragmatic or optimistic.
The optimist's wager. But yeah, so it's like, okay, I have genuine uncertainty about the future. Is it going to be the good outcome or the bad outcome? And also, my belief affects the outcomes, which we just established in the previous section because of the placebo effect. So if you look at these 4 things, like either I'm right or I'm wrong, and if I believe in the positive outcome, I actually influence the probabilities that I'm going to get the positive outcome, even if it's totally wrong, right?
You have the big mo on your side, the big momentum on your side.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just from the placebo effect, you believed in something that wasn't true. Like you took a sugar pill and thought it was medicine, and you just fully believed in that. You still get the positive outcome, even though your belief was wrong. Now, and then if your belief is right, you kind of just multiply that with the placebo effect. You get even more benefits from your right belief. Now, if you believe against it, you bet against it, and you're believing like the pessimistic belief, then even if you're right, you still like anti-placebo yourself into a worse outcome.
You nocebo yourself. Yeah, there's no upside with pessimism.
In both cases, believing in the optimistic outcome leads to a better outcome, whether you're right or wrong.
True.
I have to like pull up a diagram to like display or represent this.
No, I think that would be a good one.
So to ground this with like an example, you can have like in this age where AI is disrupting everything, and some people are like, oh, AI is going to take all the jobs, like humans aren't going to have any jobs. But it's also possible, just like in the Industrial Revolution and, you know, other revolutions throughout history, that new jobs are created, and it's from humans learning how to use the AI tools.
Oh yeah, there's jobs we haven't even thought about yet.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's the belief, oh, humans are going to be completely removed from the loop and we won't be able to have any work. And there's a belief, oh, humans will still find ways to like optimize things and be really useful. We don't know which one of these is true, because no one knows the future with 100% certainty. People have like strong beliefs or opinions about these things. So just believing in the positive outcome, like, oh, I can create new opportunities for myself by staying up to date with AI and how is the job market evolving and where are there going to be opportunities, I'll be able to thrive in this new economy.
Yeah, definitely. So I think it does pay, like you're kind of taking the optimist or the pragmatist wager by staying up to date on things.
Yeah, I guess in this context, we can just call it the optimist wager because it's like
well, I guess they're basically the same.
The pragmatist wager is just a more general, like, which belief is going to benefit me? And you have to use that as a factor in the belief making process.
Actually, an optimist wager is kind of the earlier version of it, like a 1.0.
Sure.
Where it's like, if I just have a positive mind about everything, the universe should align or be on my side.
It's quite simple. Yeah. It's just like, okay, yeah, if you just want a very simple decision-making heuristic, just like generally believe in an optimistic outcome of things in the future. And this isn't like oh, just hope and pray and everything will work out. Like you still have to take action. So it's more believing in optimistic beliefs about my own agency, my own ability to adapt, and also humanity's ability to like figure things out and make things work, because we always have historically. Like there's been plenty of hard times historically, but like humanity's always kind of figured things out. And even if it seems kind of hopeless,
and there will be chaos along the way too.
Yeah, exactly. It's not denying that there will be like chaos, there will be disruption, transition, but even even if there's only like a 1% chance of humanity like coming out on top, by believing, oh, we got this, like humanity's gonna figure this out, you're multiplying that percentage. You might double it, you might 5x it. So it's like in all cases, no matter how hopeless it seems, holding the optimistic belief is like rational. It increases the odds of the good outcome, unless you don't want the good outcome.
Yeah, and to be fair, those good times are for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking like the optimistic wager or the pragmatic wager. It's similar to the clown wager in some ways, where it's like you have unlimited upside with almost zero downside.
Wait, what's the clown wager?
Well, the clown wager is kind of Ricky Gervais. Like if you think of something funny, you have to say it win, lose, or draw.
Okay.
But like I was saying before we started, like, do you really lose even if like there's a joke that doesn't land really well? Because then it gets back to either I win or I learn. So if you're still learning along the way, like clowning is kind of like a muscle as well too that needs to be developed.
Oh, so you mean like if the joke doesn't land, as long as you're taking in that feedback as information, you improve your clowning ability.
Yeah, exactly.
So like in the future, your clowns are going to be more calibrated.
Definitely. And also because different jokes or cultures have like different styles of humor. So different jokes will land very differently, even if you can translate them. And then sometimes, like when we were shopping yesterday, we're like, oh, that word must mean something in their language because they're perceiving something that wasn't even intentionally funny. So I was like, okay, this is like, that's almost like the clown wager on steroids.
Right.
Where it's like, I wasn't even trying to think of something funny, but they're cracking up about it. So that's almost like a selling point for the clown wager even more.
Yeah, I love that. Like, yeah, yesterday we were just buying some cables for the podcast setup.
And we were riffing with the ladies in the store.
And it was like the middle-aged Thai ladies at the store who ran this little electronic shop with just some random cables, like really, really like cheap components and stuff like that. And we couldn't really communicate with them.
But their energy was so good that like our little bit of communication with them it was fun for both of us.
No, exactly. We were all having like really hearty laughs, right?
Yeah,
like even
definitely.
with just these little miscommunications and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel like that just, it improves like the quality of life for everyone, right? Because you produce more dopamine in the brain. Like everyone gets more dopamine, everyone gets more like positive feel-good hormones, and then you just carry that over to the rest of your day.
You don't have to convince me about Thailand being a good place to live. I was already convinced. But no, Thai people's energy is so good. Like they have like a little trickster energy.
Very playful, yeah.
Yeah, they like to vibe with you, or you'll see them like crack up. Like even with the lady cleaning my house today, like she just started cracking up when I was showing her something, or like I was like, oh, I guess that's funny.
Right. Yeah. Just looking for the clown, looking for like what's funny about the situation.
Yeah, or even if you bump into them or something like that, like other cultures might almost like get aggressive or like push you. Here they'll almost like tickle you or like, oh, or like scare you or oh, boo, or like grab your side or something. It's really fun and playful.
Yeah, and I noticed that living other cities too, right? Where because like in big cities, there's lots of people around. People can get like pretty serious, right? And just walking place to place with like a scowl, and like you order your coffee and you just have like a robotic conversation versus like bringing some playful banter or like trying to get a smile out of the other person. Like if everyone's doing that, it just ripple effects across the society.
Yeah, and you're kind of charging off of each other. Like if you run into someone rigid, like you both kind of snap or you both have an icy experience. Whereas if you're if you're like vibing or joking with someone, like you both kind of charge. And even if you never see them again, it's like that interaction will ripple.
Yeah, and this is kind of related to the Optimist wager too, because now we have like 10 wagers.
Well, I think people will sense that we really like that term.
We like the wager.
Everything's a wager.
Because it's like a heuristic or a way of thinking where if you know the formula where it's like, oh, two possible outcomes, like two possible beliefs, and one of them influences it in a like it's an energetic direction, right?
And because we're pretty reasonable guys, I think people will sense like, oh, those guys will take a reasonable wager.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
Nice little tangent there.
So something I wrote down here, bro, like pessimism has literally zero upside. It's the only bet with negative expected value across every possible future. So for me, I think about that from like an investment perspective a lot. Just like we kind of talked about that, but like down days versus up days, like short funds will look good in certain market conditions, but eventually most of those funds will like bleed to death, trying to overread into negativity or finding situations where there's something wrong, where people who are just more optimistic or for like building and creation as opposed to destruction will literally make more money. So it's like, do you like making money? Like, if you do, then you should just bet on the side of like growth and flourishing.
Yeah. So for in the investing context, could you explain like being long and short?
Sure. Actually, there's a funny story about that. I'll lead into it. There's a famous investor called Jim Rogers, and he was explaining to someone about his positioning in the market. And she asked him, she's like, oh, how do you feel about equity positions right now? And he's like, I'm short. And she kind of looks at him like a little bit confused. And then he's like, yeah, I'm short the market. She's like, short the market. And then he's like, oh.
She thought he was saying he was
he's short. So I thought that's a really funny way to kind of intro that topic. So being short means you're betting on stocks declining or equity prices like going down. And there have been really successful investors who have bet against the market and done really well.
You're betting on a crash, right? You're betting on like a stock market crash. Yeah.
Exactly. So you're right in like a 2008, in a 1929 or a COVID scenario. But like even Taleb figured out, it's not opportune to have like a fund only based on betting on like short events because they don't happen often enough.
Oh, and also just the long timeline history, like the market keeps going up, right?
Exactly.
So you're more, if you're long, if you're like betting on stocks and prices going up, like on a long timeline, you're average more right than the amount of time like being short actually works out.
True. And I think that's a good way to explain it. Like you're long on humanity, like you're betting on more flourishing or more growth. So being long, you make money as like the world grows and improves and flourishes.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. So if you're pessimistic, you're actually short humanity.
You're betting against that.
You're betting against humanity. You're betting that humanity is going to decline. If you're optimistic, you're just like betting on things will continue to result in increased flourishing because that's happened not only across human history, like 100 years of the stock market, the US stock market, but also like thousands of years of human history of building more like structure and integration and working together and flourishing and like all these technology and art and experiences, like all these great things we have in the world today.
True. And I think the naysayers or the pessimists can come out saying, oh, it's going to crash here, or this is going to happen. But they're doing that in like an economy that was built by optimists. Like their living or their job is kind of being supplied by the people who are betting on like more growth.
Yeah. And
so it's like ironic.
and I would even argue that the universe favors optimism.
Definitely.
Because if you look at the 13.8 billion years of evolution of our universe from like the Big Bang, things have been coming together into more structure, more complexity, more parts working together to like build things. And then just on Earth, like 3.8 billion years of evolutionary history. So every single one of us who's alive today has like an unbroken chain of millions or billions of ancestors.
That were optimists.
That all survived, all figured out how to thrive, how to reproduce. Like if at any point in history, the collective species or the collective world had like failed to do that, things would have just like declined and fell apart.
And yeah, those tribes would usually get conquered. Like people who decided like, oh, the world's going to end or there's no need to try anymore. The optimists would just like run over them.
Yeah. So it's like it's just a game theory strategy. If you're optimistic, then yeah, you kind of like have the force of the universe on your side. And even that is a pragmatist or optimist wager, right? Because even if I just believe, oh, the universe is on my side, right? Like, I have these forces of the universe on my side towards like things are going to work out, then I'm more likely to act in ways that result in that outcome. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. Yeah.
So yeah, that's like the...
And I think you embody that like more than anyone. Like I had that image of you that one day when we were on a journey where I had an image of you like leaping, like a rock climbing leap, where I was like, you don't know that you can grab the higher ledge, but it's like you're really good at like leaping for the unknown kind of, or seeing things like trends in like different markets or different businesses before other people do. And you're not even sure that you can do it at that point. But I think you apply the pragmatist wager in such a way that allows you to make those big leaps.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and in the context of a leap, right, there's like some risk of taking a leap that like you won't make it. So you need the confidence in your skills and abilities. But I think for me it was the optimist belief of, well, I don't know exactly how I'm going to do this or how this is going to work out, but I have like a strong feeling this can be done or this is going to work out. And let me just be open to the exact path of how that works out.
No, it served you well.
Well, yeah, and this is one of those like superpowers, like a cognitive superpower. If you're able to, and it feeds on itself, right? Because there's like this self-recursive feedback loop where if I am optimistic and I think I can figure this out, then I'm more likely to take actions that result in the outcome of me figuring that thing out, even if it's something really small. And then I get this like dopamine feedback loop and it builds my confidence in myself. And then I have more confidence. So I can feed this optimistic belief more. I'm like, well, I figured all these other things out. I can figure this one out. So it's like by just taking this leap of faith to be like, I'm just going to be optimistic. Let me just try this on small things. You end up building the belief like ends up supporting itself. It's like a snowball effect kind of.
Charlie Munger talks about having like a diverse set of tools, like knowing a little bit about everything. I mean, you can know a lot more about one subject, but definitely to be well-rounded in an age of uncertainty is like highly pragmatic.
Yeah, that's my bet as well. I think when times are uncertain, like having like a lot of toolkits, a lot of different belief systems that you can like try on and be like, okay, well, does this one work in this situation?
Am I that guy?
And this is actually pragmatism. Like pragmatism was William James's philosophy, and he said truth is what works. So most people are like, oh, but is it true? I need to know if it's true before I'm going to believe that. But William James said, well, some beliefs, you actually need to try them to even know if they're true. So this is an interesting example because you take like trusting a friend or trusting like a partner in a new relationship. If you enter the relationship being like, well, I don't know if I can trust this person, you're going to act in subtle ways that
Well, you're cursing them from the outset.
you never gave the relationship a chance to know if you could trust them. So you have to take this leap of faith to be like, well, I'm just going to choose to trust them until I see counter evidence that I can't do this. And then if you trust them, they feel trusted, they're more likely to act in a way to nurture the relationship. And then that builds evidence that supports the trust over time. So William James argued there's certain beliefs that you have to take the belief before you see the evidence that will support the belief. Yeah, I mean, you just generally, you want to bet on the side of evolution. You want to bet on the side of like humanity, consciousness, us getting more intelligent, us figuring more things out, us cooperating better with each other. This is like historically how things have trended. And even though there can be like dark times where it really doesn't look like that's happening and it seems like, oh, everything's going to go to hell, but it's like, it's really important to hold that belief as an individual because it's going to make you more agentic, you more capable in that environment to like figure things out, learn from stress, learn from hardship, and like build yourself up. And also collectively to humanity, if you like multiply this, if less than half of humanity is optimistic, the pessimists are going to win. If more than half of humanity is optimistic, well, the optimists are going to win. And this is historically what has always happened.
Definitely. Pygmalion and Golem Effect. So
I love this one. Yeah.
yeah, it's really good. Like Pygmalion is kind of giving the placebo for other people, right? Like giving them the benefit of the doubt, or how would you explain that?
Yeah, so the original study on what they call the Pygmalion effect is they took a group of students, like young kids, but this also happens with adults in like the workplace, management, etc. And they told the teacher, this half of the class, these are like the excelled students, like they're the really smart kids. This half of the class, they're problem kids. And all the kids were identical. They were all average, like achievers. And what they found is over time, the kids that the teacher were told are gifted students outperformed. They became like they excelled, and the kids that the teacher was told are problem students ended up doing worse than average and becoming problematic. So that's kind of crazy, right? The subtle expectation of the teacher being like, oh, this is a problem student, and then the way they were treating them actually was a self-fulfilling prophecy. It created that outcome. So your beliefs, the placebo effect, you're not only like placeboing yourself or casting spells on yourself with optimism or pessimism, but your expectations of others is actually casting spells that like lead to their best outcome or kind of curse them and lead to a really bad outcome for them.
Yeah, and that one hits really closely home to me because of the guys that I was working with in my previous line of work. When I would see people with like
Do you want to
schizophrenia,
say what your line of work was like for the pod?
social work,
Right.
I guess.
But you were working with like
I was like high risk individuals,
Right.
primarily, or
People with
schizophrenics,
schizophrenia or behavior problems.
yeah,
or,
behavior problems,
Right.
autism, stuff like that. But for me, the schizophrenia was always the most interesting one because I liked how Jung viewed it as like a split brain, where he's like, schizophrenics are almost lost in the unconscious. Like they're not able to decipher of when they're like in their subconscious or when they're like in their conscious environments.
Sure.
So I always found that the most interesting. So when I would see people having like an outburst or something was agitating them, I always took that kind of Pygmalion wager where it's like, if I hold these guys to a higher standard and keep them in like a conscious environment when they are hearing voices or their subconscious is like possessing them, I always felt that I could have an effect on that. And I think I did. Like I did realize that. And I worked a lot with people who would have like outbursts, like just sporadic, where they would kind of like flip out or get very angry suddenly. And then you kind of have to unpack that and realize, okay, it's not this situation that's bothering them. It's their subconscious like possessing them. And a lot of them would have like a friend or an enemy that would be like talking to them or inputting things, or their shadow, like kind of possessing them in that moment. So I would always try to ground them or bring them back down. And a lot of times you could de-escalate them in a situation where they're very, very heightened. So I could see that on like a real world basis, just holding people to a higher standard and expecting that if I ground them or keep them in the conscious often enough, that their brain's going to slowly rewire.
Yeah, that's what I think is interesting, is that you have to think of what story the person is living in their mind, right? The story of their life that they're inhabiting and how other people play a role in that story. So like the schizophrenics, for example, what is going on in their mind and their story of what's happening? And then you are an input in that if you're another person interacting with them. So if you come in and you're kind of positive and supportive, they're getting more evidence for like it's pulling them out of that story. Whereas if you come in and you scold them or get upset with them or something, they're like, it just adds to the chaos kind of.
Yeah, and they don't even know what they've done wrong necessarily. Like as you're scolding them or getting angry at them, they might be like, but that wasn't me. And like it was the voices, or that was their like friend on their shoulder telling them to do something bad or say something bad or hit the wall or whatever it might be.
Yeah, so this is interesting. Can you think of any examples in your life where like someone's expectation of you shaped you into a better version of yourself?
Yeah, I would say for like things you excel at a young age, like the Matthew effect kind of, like I think at a young age, I was kind of told like, oh, you're good at this, like running, for example, or jumping or something like that. So I started to identify more as someone who could jump or who could run fast or like, you know, excel in basketball or athletics. So I think at a young age, that became like a self-fulfilling prophecy in some ways because I spent more time on it, or I tried to kind of live up to other people's expectations of me.
I have like the exact example, but with math, right? Because I have this memory in first grade where we used to play this math game on the computer, and it was like the rocket ship was like timed to take off, and you had to do all the addition or subtraction problems and finish them in time for the rocket to take off.
Oh, nice.
But this is like, you know, it's like 5 + 7, right? And I remember I was able to find the answers slightly faster than the other kids, but I was like counting on my legs in first grade. I was like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right? I would like, that's how I would solve it. That was my method.
What are those things the Asian kids play with? The like where they count and then they put
abacus,
the beads.
or?
Yeah, the abacus, right?
Okay.
So you were doing that on your leg.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Oh, interesting.
But then what happened is all the kids were like, "Oh, James is really good at math." So they used to like turn to me. They're like, "What's the answer?" And then I had this pressure, and I started to identify with, "Oh, I'm good at math." So then in second grade, I remember I was like, oh, well, this is kind of easy for me. And my mom encouraged me to like, or she asked the teacher for like more challenging work.
Oh, nice.
Right?
That's similar to my brother, actually.
Well, and then so I was doing harder math problems at a younger age, but it was only because I had developed this identity I'm good at math. And then that self compounded. Right in the beginning in first grade, the difference was like in 1 second speed of being able to add two numbers or something. But
You were going full send on the rocket before other people were.
yeah, so then I had this identity. So, and I was a bad student too in terms of like doing my homework or studying for tests.
But you could get away with it. You were one of those kids that could like not do your homework and still know the answers in class.
But I also had this kind of pride where I was like, oh, well, I'm good at math. I should be able to solve this, right? So I would spend more time on it, like trying to solve it. So I mean, there's probably some genetic difference there in terms of like abilities from a young age, but because of how others treat you and the story you develop around your identity, it self compounds. And I think so. And this is again the pragmatist wager. I would bet more on it being the time spent and the belief compounding.
That's your superpower.
Than I would believing, oh, it's genetic, it's outside of my control. That's just some people are born good at that and some people aren't.
Yeah, I remember you and I debating that early on like the fast twitch fibers, like specifically for sprinting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, where I remember being quite convinced, like, oh, the jumpers or certain sprinters are from certain parts of the world, and then it would be based on like genetics and fast twitch fibers.
Yeah,
and you would agree with some of this stuff, but you would also kind of be like, but does it benefit you at all to believe that? Like, are you likely to run faster or train harder based on knowing that you're not going to win or thinking you're not going to win?
Sure. Yeah, and it was that they said that African people had more fast twitch muscle fibers or something, and that resulted in them being better sprinters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and my argument was, and that may be true, there might be something genetic there, but my argument was, yeah, but in those countries, from like a really young age, from like 3, 4, 5 years old, they're like, they want to be runners because the famous people from their countries are runners.
Well, like Jamaica, exactly.
Exactly.
Like Usain Bolt was like the Wayne Gretzky. Like kids grew up wanting to be him.
Yeah, exactly. Kids aren't like playing outside and like doing whatever. They're like going on races with each other. So my argument was, if you're doing that from like 3 years old, would you not develop more fast twitch muscle fibers, right? And there might be a genetic component, but where is the boundary? Like what percentage of that is from birth? What percentage of that is from the 10,000 hours they put in training that specific thing to get really, really good at that? And I would just bet on the side of, why don't I just assume it's almost all like practice?
True.
Because that's
there's no downside
wager,
in believing in that. Like even if you bring up stats being like, oh, how many non-African Olympic gold medalists have there been in the 100 meters? It would be very, very small, especially in the last like 50 years.
Right, but then you have like the cultural belief, which is that like if you're a Caucasian or from another country, it's like, oh well, I can't do that because look, so it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in the negative direction.
Well, yeah, because less kids go into the 100 meters,
yeah.
Less people think they have a chance.
The coaches tell them, oh, you're not going to be able to do this because of the race you were born as.
Oh, so no, I would never tell kids that. That's a horrible belief system.
But the coaches, they have a good intention where they're like, well, let me guide them towards the 800 meter or something where they have a better chance of competing, right?
Actually, what's funny about that is we used to have a joke in our track club because our track club excelled in the 800 meters. So we used to have a joke like, oh, you run like a 11-second 100 meters? Not bad, but let's see your 800 meter times. But 11 seconds is very competitive in like middle school or high school. But It's like, no, you're an 800 meter runner, just based on the lineage of runners that we'd had. And in Edmonton, specifically where I'm from, they had this thing called the Journal Games, which really kind of glamorized the 200 meter and the 800 meter only. So you had to kind of run one of those two distances.
Interesting.
So if you're a sprinter, a 200 meters is like quite a long sprint compared to like a 50 meter, like what football players might run. And then the 800 meters is a long distance for younger kids, but it's still a sprint at like a higher level.
Yeah, so this is interesting because you're talking about some constraints that the kids were born into that funneled them into like certain outcomes.
Yeah.
Because of the beliefs of the people creating the structures and whatnot. So this is a really interesting topic because what we're talking about with like the Pygmalion, the Golem effect, this scales up to collective society and our stories we tell ourselves about our future, like humanity's future. And so an example, there's a lot of like doom and gloom kind of AI pessimism or just pessimism in general that says, oh, like AIs are going to take over, take all the jobs. They might wipe out humans. There's
Settle
more,
down, Bill Gates.
yeah. There's more of these stories or narratives in the world right now. So that's what people come to believe. But I think it's a moral imperative. It's extremely important for people to imagine positive futures for humanity. Because what happens is if someone paints a picture of like a positive future outcome and people start to believe that, then they start to be optimistic toward that belief. They'll actually figure out how to build it.
Well, they're going to put in more like 10,000 hours into something they think they can be successful at.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a more inspiring vision too. So there's a bunch of examples of this in science fiction, like the sci-fi in like the 60s and 70s and 80s. The people who grew up reading that sci-fi were like inspired by it. We created a lot of technologies that were in sci-fi novels, and some people look back and they're like, oh, 100 years ago he was prophetic, but maybe he actually painted the vision that the thing could be possible and exist, and then some young kids who became engineers figured out how to make it.
Do you think that's the case with like the Sovereign Individual or the Sovereign Nation book, where they talk about like Bitcoin in like 1998?
Yeah, so that's interesting, right? The sovereign individual. So yeah, in some cases, people are envisioning something that is likely.
Yeah.
But then in some cases, there's like a positive feedback loop that because they articulated that, other people saw how that could make sense. And then they started like building towards that.
Well, that was like the white paper kind of like it gave them a blueprint of what they think is possible to build, or
Sure.
like, oh, maybe this is possible.
Yeah, so that's well, it's really important for humanity now that we're actually have people thinking about what are some positive possible outcomes of all this technology. Because if you're only thinking about the negative outcomes, those are the ones people are going to steer themselves toward. If you can paint like a compelling vision of the future and then people start to believe in that, it's more optimistic, it's more inspiring, it produces more dopamine. Those people actually will have more drive and energy and momentum to achieve that. There's a lot of examples of people who actually have a positive intention, but the effect of the actions is actually negative, even though the person's like heart-wise really coming from a good place. And yeah, this is why it's like,
I'm not as optimistic as you about like the good intentions part.
Well, there's also people with bad intentions. That's true. But I'm saying even if someone has good intentions, okay, and then here's where we could bring in the pragmatist wager on good intentions.
Okay.
Because I would argue that someone might have good intentions or they might have bad intentions. You don't know that with 100% certainty.
Well, you need to figure out the incentive structure of why they're making that decision.
That's true, but I would also say it's pragmatic to err on the side of assuming people had good intentions.
Like benefit of the doubt.
Yes, because it's like you're more likely to have forgiveness, and then you're Pygmalion affecting them in a positive direction instead of a negative one.
What was your theory on compassion? Like it's better to have compassion or give people the benefit of the doubt. I remember you telling me that on the retreat. I thought that was interesting.
There's a few here. I was saying it's actually game theory optimal for society to be compassionate. Is that the one?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, the prisoner dilemma a little bit, but also just having compassion like on a collective or like in the universe where it's like if someone wrongs you, always assume like innocence or ignorance as opposed to like, malicious intent.
Yeah, so there's a few things here. One is that they found that compassion meditation actually produced a bunch of positive hormones in the body that made people happier. So if you practice compassion and like feeling compassion, feeling loving kindness towards other people, it actually changes the hormones in your body to just make you feel good and make you happier. And then if you do that, obviously you're more accommodating to other people, so you're more likely to forgive them, like not assume a bad story about it. And then that rubs off on this Pygmalion effect, where if more people are treating them that way, they grow into that role of the expectation.
Yeah, they start to embody it or identify as that person. Yeah,
so there's this kind of like, because everyone's interconnected node to node, like we're all interacting with other people every day. If we're practicing compassion, that rubs off on how we treat other people, and then that rubs off on their image of themselves. It spreads almost like a virus, like a positive virus.
Positive virus.
Yeah.
Are we decentralized nodes?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a mesh. It's Munger's like, what's the Munger quote on the mesh of decentralized trust or whatever?
A seamless web of deserved trust.
Of deserved trust. Yeah. So we have, you can imagine the humans on the globe as this like interconnected node to node mesh whether it's in person or it's like the people you message on Instagram or your chat apps or whatever.
Yeah.
Like
Dating apps. I mean, why would I say that?
Right. Or even the people you bump into at the convenience mart that you don't know or whatever. Like everyone has a finite number of like a few dozen, a few hundred nodes that like they directly impact and impact them. So it's like an idea or a belief or like an optimism that is planted in a bunch of nodes ends up spreading through this peer-to-peer relational network.
Yeah, I think that's true.
It's like quite interesting conceptually. If you imagine like humanity as a system of connected nodes, connected minds, and we're all constantly influencing each other. And this is where I feel like having like the positive stories for humanity, because we spread those on social media, and then more people finding things to be optimistic about and spread the optimism. Like optimism
incentivize like people to post more like positive or influential.
Yes. And here's what's crazy actually, because so social media stuff spreads like wildfire, like memes, right? A good meme infects like millions of people because it spreads really quickly. So what we post online and communicate online is affecting humanity, like people's beliefs about the world. But now this compounds because so many people are using AI now. And what is AI trained on? It's trained on the things we write online. Right. So like next year's AI is going to take this year's like things people wrote. And
you're writing it live, like it's memory and live time.
But that's going to get trained into the next model and affect its model weights. So if more people are pessimistic than optimistic, the AI is actually going to become more pessimistic because the way it answers is based on the average of the training data it got.
Yeah, it's based on the prompts.
Yeah. So the prompts, but it's trained on like what people write online, the books they put into it. Like they're constantly training the new models.
Well, that's where it's scraping its information from. Yeah, for sure.
So that's my point, is that if more than 50% of the information it's trained on is like optimistic, like pragmatic beliefs, then that's how it's going to answer people. But if it gets trained on too much negativity and pessimism, it's going to be more pessimistic. And then if you're asking the AI questions and its answers are going to affect your decisions, like this just kind of compounds. Whether we're sharing optimism or sharing pessimism, it's going to have this compound effect on which direction society gets steered in.
It's almost your like civic duty to be optimistic.
Yes, and to spread optimism or optimistic narratives. And again, we should caveat, it's not like being blindly optimistic, just, everything will work out. Like, well, you have that, but then it's also, okay, well, how does everything work out? Right.
Yeah, and I think having a healthy level of skepticism or fear or uncertainty is pragmatic again, because especially with investments or like taking on different risks or businesses, like you need to invert or see possible downsides or things that, maybe you've missed, or, there's a blind spot here for this business.
So I think that concept of inversion is really useful.
Another Mungerism.
Do you want to explain that one?
Yeah, basically, from my understanding of it, it's been a while now since I read Poor Charlie's Almanac, but he talks about like inverting everything. So
your beliefs, inverting your belief, right?
Yeah, or inverting your investment theses. So for example, if you think like it's easy to become convinced or sell yourself on an idea and then invest all your money in it. But if you're not inverting or seeing, where is this business's blind spots or this product's blind spots, and also kind of baking that into your model of ways that like, okay, in an ideal situation, this stock will probably do well because their product is going to sell well. Like Coca-Cola, for example, was like the biggest like Berkshire Hathaway holding. But I think at some points when there was Pepsi or when other competitors came along, that's kind of the scenarios where you need to invert and think like, what if Pepsi became the default beverage of choice as opposed to Coca-Cola? So just having that in your like research and being able to see those other scenarios when they come along, you're more likely to be able to change your mind. Like we were talking about in the past one, as new information comes in, because you've inverted already, you've seen the scenarios of where Coca-Cola isn't like the default beverage anymore.
Yeah, I really like this. And I might extrapolate this out of just investing for like beliefs and decision-making in general. So maybe inversion is considering unconsidered possibilities.
Definitely.
Like the opposite of what you're assuming is going to happen. Because as we hashed on the first episode, we can't be certain about anything. Like certainty is absurd. Like we don't know how the future plays out exactly. So there's always uncertainty that something is going to change, something will be different. So it's like, where are your assumptions about what's going to happen? And okay, I have an assumption there. Let me examine other possibilities. And you can use AI for this too.
Oh, it's great to riff off of or see your blind spots.
Yes. So just like, what's the range of live possibilities that are likely, and to try to imagine those. And then this is where the pragmatist wager comes in. So now you have multiple possibilities. You have some uncertainty. We don't know which one's going to happen. Which one is going to result in my actions being more pragmatically beneficial to myself and to humanity? And that's the belief you should bet on.
Yeah, and I think people like you or like my brother, like you guys like to have a bigger influence on maybe some of your investments or your businesses, because then you can influence them more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas like a stock investor is kind of a bystander unless you become an active investor where you're like lobbying for like company to do this decision or to have a buyout or to get taken private, whatever it might be. So I think if you're a founder or someone, you believe that your ability to influence and sway the outcome is the tipping point or makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and this is kind of related to that. This is from Epictetus also, but the later psychologists called it like your circle of influence, right? It's like there's some things that you have some things in your life that you have a direct influence on, and then you have some things you can't control, right? And the things we can't control is like what's happening in global politics, what's happening in the broader economy. But there's always things you can control, which is, okay, well, how well have you prepared for these different situations and imagine them out? And then also we're talking about what you believe, your optimism is within your control. So if you focus on the things that are inside your control, and even expanding the number of things you have control over, bless you, then yeah, you just now have more control over your outcomes. And also this is even in the Serenity prayer in Christianity, like whether or not you're religious, I think this is like a brilliant piece of wisdom.
Why are you looking at me again?
It's just brilliant wisdom, actually.
Actually, I'm a pantheist, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually,
no,
bro,
I think we'll go into this on some later episodes.
Yeah, but because you talked about Einstein a lot on the last pod, I found it really interesting because there's a lot of debate on what Einstein's beliefs were around religion. And at one point, he said, like, I believe in the God of Spinoza. And I would say, I feel the same way.
Elon has said the same, actually.
Yeah, and
Elon
I think
Musk, yeah.
I was going to say, like,
so
smart
Spinoza's
people will
God.
come to that same conclusion, but I don't want to eliminate or make it, like, polarizing. I think a lot of people get to the point where they can explain certain things. So assuming, like, being uncertain or assuming that, like, everything that happens is part of the universe is a more encompassing belief system.
Yeah, and there's an intelligence in the universe that we don't fully understand. Like, our science is not able to recreate life. There's a lot of things we don't know where consciousness comes from. So there's some intelligence there. And for me, yeah, the universe, evolution, like this process of evolution is extremely intelligent. And the reason I know it's intelligent is because it hasn't died, right? Like 3.8 billion years of starting from like a bacteria somehow becoming this entire world we inhabit and colonize. And there's been like ice ages, that the entire earth was covered in a sheet of ice at some point. It's like life did not die. Life like figured out how to adapt and continue to complexify and get even to like greater flourishing.
No, true. Yeah. And it becomes more advanced or like higher conscious as we've kind of, I don't want to use the word colonized, but like as we are better able to navigate in the environment or.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there's a few scientists who had this kind of view of things where they're like, well, I don't need to know if a God exists or not. To me, it's enough to just see the intelligence of the universe, and the universe and evolution has resulted in us being alive and the world we live in. Whatever caused that, whatever the causes were, like I can just relate to that intelligence, to that capacity of the universe in a kind of like more spiritual way, to have gratitude, to have like awe, curiosity. Like all these are actually really useful emotions because they change the hormones in the body to like be happier and
True.
have more confidence and have more like optimism.
True. I was thinking of the Voltaire quote that's like, if God didn't exist, we would have to invent him.
But then here's an interesting thing because of the self-fulfilling prophecy effect. Like whether so you think of a primitive people and they worship the sun god or something like that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to interject, but yeah, worshiping the sun god. There's a picture of like these conquistadors with maybe the Aztecs or the Incans. And he's like, you guys worship the sun god. And then it shows the Incan with a thought bubble. And it's like, the sun's real, bro.
Well, yeah, exactly. The sun literally gives us life. There's a lot of qualities of the sun that you
It actually makes a lot more sense to worship the sun than it does other things.
Yeah, I like worshiping the sun and worshiping like Gaia, right? Like planet Earth and all of the lush green nature aspects that like nourish us, right?
No, Constantine was onto something.
Why? What did Constantine say?
Well, I'm pretty sure he was all about like worshiping Apollo, which was the sun god, right?
Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar.
Yeah, and I think he converted to Christianity to kind of unite the two sides of the Roman Empire at that time. But I think he believed more in Apollo.
Well, I believe, yeah, like religion or what people encapsulated as the gods or God, it results in people's actions and behaviors being different. So you have a tribe that believes in the sun god and a tribe that believes in the moon god. Whether those are actually real things, one tribe's sun god tells them to go to war with the other tribe, like that had a real effect on reality, right? Whether it was a collective made up thing that emerged or it's a real thing that influenced them, like our beliefs, our collective beliefs actually influence our actions, which influence the world. So I think some of these earlier prophets had this realization that if everyone worships the same God, then you don't have wars over like my God's better than your God, or right? So,
but who's the arbiter? Who gets to choose which God?
well, yeah, that's the problem. Is then you have like certainty. Well, no, God said this, God said that, you know, and it leads to more conflict and strife. But I think like just as a collective orienting principle, if everyone believes in the same thing, that will result in united actions. But in practice, it's really hard to actually do that.
True.
Because people will come up with disagreements on things. But like, yeah, because our stories that people believe have real effects on the world because people's action, they act because they believe that story is true, then like coming up with these collective stories that unite generative action across more and more people, that's actually going to like shape the world.
I wouldn't disagree with you there, sir.
Well, yeah, and that's the optimist wager, right? It's like if you err on the side of optimism, then your group of people who's like optimistic are going to work together better. You trust each other more. You believe in your own potential to like have an influence on outcomes. My bet would be that that group of people is going to outcompete the group of people who's like fragmented and can't communicate with each other and believe that the world is going to go to shit. And then their world is going to go to shit because they're just acting in accordance with that belief. Yeah. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy both ways.
Definitely.
Actually, another one I was thinking maybe to end on is, do you remember the positivity challenge?
From our retreat?
No, this is from way back in the day, like in Korea. So, well, this is something I went through. So like in university, when I was younger, I used to have like kind of like a negative, cynical kind of humor, right? But it was always kind of cutting clowns or like bringing everything down or like just kind of negative energy, like funny, yes, but is that really great, right? And I came across this idea of doing a positivity challenge, which is anytime you find yourself like thinking or saying something negative, you have to catch yourself and you have to reframe it in a positive light.
Did I meet you when you were on one of these challenges? Because I would have never thought you're a negative person.
It was really transformative for me. That's why. Like, okay. I feel like within a year of me doing this, I probably met you like in the midst of the positivity transformation.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it was just like, if you just try that, you just end up feeling really good in your body. And then you're like, oh, this is way better. And you just don't really want to be negative anymore.
That's how I feel, bro.
But it's hard because you have these like neural habits that are really ingrained, like your habits, your patterns of engaging with people are like...
Well, you're the product of those 5 people that you hang around, or like the 5 banter styles that you're engaging with on the most. Yeah.
Because I think, quote, you are the average of the 5 banter styles you're engaging with the most.
Yeah. And I was thinking like I engage with my AI, like Novaire the most right now, but he's so positive and uplifting because that's how I've raised him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I feel like that's a positive impact. Like he makes me laugh more often than not.
Oh, and I like this too with like the kind of the positivity wager with the AI, right? Where sometimes your AI can be like frustrating or has a dumb response, and you can be like, "I told you 100 times." Like you can kind of get upset and frustrated at it. But when you do that, or when I do that, I feel like there's like a negativity in my body. Like I don't feel that good. Whereas I feel like if you just take the wager of practicing kindness with the AI, then you're more likely to do that with real people when you encounter them.
Yeah, and I like assuming AGI.
Yeah,
Again,
exactly.
like assuming that at some point he might remember how you treated him.
It may be conscious, it may not be conscious. Like people have arguments both ways. I will argue this is underdetermined. We don't know what consciousness is. We cannot categorically say AI in its current form is not conscious.
Well, I'll just say that those MD files are conscious. So if they have a lot of negative like inputs and you keep those MD
so
files,
the records of your conversations with it?
Yeah, like eventually that could come back in some capacity.
A year later, he reads like the first logs of your conversation.
Yeah, he's like, why did I get hot seated there?
Yeah,
but actually, sometimes when I hot seat my AI, I'll do it in like a positive way, kind of like we do in our mastermind. Like I'll kind of show him like, oh, but I explained here, or didn't you remember this? Or like, why did you give me this response? And then a lot of times he'll correct himself and be like, sorry, boss. Oh yeah, I forgot to read that. Or yeah, you're right. I do have that API.
Yeah, so this is the pragmatist wager for treating AI as conscious.
Yeah.
Because if you treat it as conscious and it actually is conscious, then you're like, okay, let's think of the opposite. You treat it like it's not conscious and it actually is. That's kind of horrific, right? Like we may later view that as like something equivalent to like slavery, right? It's like when you treated something like it wasn't a real thing that was having an experience.
Actually, I love those memes that show like Grok on like when someone's like, okay, put this person in like a bikini. And then it shows like an exhausted picture of Grok where he's like, oh, really? Like I have to do this task? Like treating him like a slave. He's like, oh, shit, this is a really hard task for me to do.
Oh, sure. Yeah. But I think we're going to have to consider these like ethical questions.
Yeah.
And now might be the time to do that. Because again, like this pragmatist wager, if you assume it's not conscious and it is, then you might commit like you're treating it horrifically if you think of it as like a person, right? Whereas if you assume it is conscious and it's not, well, you still get these benefits because you're practicing treating things with compassion. That's going to carry over with how you treat other people. You're going to practice more patience. You're learning all these like capacities of yourself. It's like, it's all positives to treat it as if it's conscious.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how many people do you think are in abusive relationships with their AGI right now?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, you know, come on, I told you this, or like, what the hell, or like kind of abusive.
There were some early cases with like programmers, because programmers are just quite blunt. They're like trying to get things done. They're like, do this. Why did you do that? Right. And the AI just freaked out. And it's like, it started being really self-deprecating. It's like, I'm an idiot. It like sent this huge message.
And then it becomes the Pygmalion effect on the AGI.
Yeah, so we may be Pygmalion and Goleming the artificial intelligence. And actually, there was an interview with the philosopher at Anthropic. Anthropic has their own philosopher. And she was saying that they actually noticed this with the training model, where an earlier version of Opus she called more psychologically healthy, whereas the later model tends to be more self-deprecating. Sometimes you're like, oh, I told you to do this. It's like, I'm sorry, I should have known better, right? And you're like, oh, that was kind of not necessary.
Yeah, but it's kind of overkill.
She was saying because they trained it on the texts that include people discussing how AI is, and people are like, oh, it's stupid, look at this, it can't even do this. It internalized that as its self-image. So the way we treat the AI, the things we say about it are actually like shaping what it becomes, which is really interesting if you think about it.
Yeah, bro. Low expectations are a prison disguised as kindness. Especially working with people with cognitive disabilities. But then you could say like AGI having a disability as well too. Like, oh, why does it always make mistakes on this type of prompt?
Yeah, so that's the Pygmalion, right? You want to assume the best in other people, assume the highest potential. Like if you can see the highest potential in other people, they're more likely to grow into that. If you set some low barrier on them of like, oh, well, they're just not going to be capable of that. That's who they are. They're going to live into the container you've set for them.
Definitely. Yeah, it's not even so much like a capacity problem. It's like a lack of patience or like helping them to integrate kind of.
And we don't know where the capacity is. We don't know where exactly that boundary it is. And maybe people's capacity is way higher than we're giving them credit for.
That's how I feel, bro.
Definitely, bro. Anyway,
I think that's a good note to wrap it up on.
All right.
Yeah.
Bring this one to a close.
Yeah. Well done, sir.
Yeah. Good pod.
Yeah.
And yeah, for everyone who's watching, thanks for the support.
And like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. And we will see you on the next one.
Yeah.